Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of January 20th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you like it?
It's a lot better. I'm just going to have to get used to it.
Sunshine.
Okay, we have adoption / amendment of minutes.
I move to amend the regular session minutes of November 17th, 2015 to add, open quote, "it creates inequity among staff," close quote, after, open quote, "highway surveyor's salary," end quote, as discussed.
Second.
Discussion.
I don't recall this one. Was I not around for this? It doesn't sound.
Let's see, November 17th.
Well,
That
we
was...
had an incomplete sentence in the minutes, and so we had to complete the sentence.
Okay.
All right. All in favor? Go ahead.
No, go
You
ahead.
want the minutes?
Yeah, can I just like to see the rest of the paragraph. Can you point out where it is?
In red.
Ah, thank you. Okay, yeah, got it. Good.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, citizens' statements and petitions. I believe, was someone here for that?
There's a second, Mr. Chairman, there's a
I'm
second
sorry.
motion on the minutes. I move to approve the regular session meeting minutes of January 7th, 2016.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we can move to citizen statements and petitions. Anyone here to speak on anything?
Oh, that was this gentleman here,
I
right?
thought so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to speak, sir, on something? Come on up.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
My name is Sam Yunus. I'm a resident of town of Mendon for almost a couple of years. I reside at 162 Blackstone Street. Since I moved to this town a couple of years, we've been facing a lot of big issues with the snow removal on the street. Last year, I did call and complain about the ice snow on Lovell Street, all the way going to Park Street. And after a few calls with Mrs. Allen, and through the town, then they confirmed it to Allen. Allen did take care of the snow last year because it was so dangerous on the road. It was 4 or 5 inches of snow pile up, iced hard to drive through. So that issue been took care of it last year after a million conversation with Allen. Monday morning, driving on Blackstone Street, around 5 a.m. in the morning, snow was close to probably 4 inches, black ice. I had skid on ice all the way almost 40 feet, went, I believe it's 97 Blackstone Street, hit right to the trees. My truck got totaled, and barely I was moving on the road, leaving my house. I believe my life was dangerous, and you can see all the scars on my face. The town never even called Department of Public Work to get ready for plowing or sanding the streets. The streets been left as the way it came from our nature, and nobody took care of it. No one informed anybody how dangerous the street that morning was. So I'm here for a big complaint and big story about me, was raising 5 kids. My life is dangerous to driving on a road like this in this town, while I'm paying $15,000 taxes a year to this town. I want to see where the money is going to. Is it where it's going? Why I'm paying taxes for what? Being in the town of Mendon. I own business surrounded area in every single town around Mendon. And I never see a town like Mendon, they don't care, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I need an answer for what I'm here for. My body, I have a broken parts of my body. You can see my face. Where cops arrive to the scene, first things they ask me how fast I'm going. This is the worst things ever. You can ask somebody getting hurt, bleeding from his face, ask him how fast he's going. Do I like a kid? He's talking to you like a kid? Why doesn't ask the Department of Public Work? Why didn't come up on the street, cleaning the street from snow and sanding it? Why the neighborhood next door, he came up and he talked to me. He said, this corner always, and he told the cops, look at the skidding mark. How many cars been having issues this morning here? The cops, he looked at it and he didn't say a word. So who's responsible for all these things in this town? Why are we paying taxes? My truck totaled, $20,000 vehicle got totaled. I don't care for the vehicle, I care for my house, raising 5 kids.
Right.
This is dangerous for my kids to be on the road too. I'll leave 5 o'clock in the morning to feed my kids. I'm hoping come back alive to see them.
Sure. Have you have had discussion with the highway surveyor since this incident?
I'll be honest with you, I showed up yesterday. I spoke to this lady, and she told me to bring this complaint right to here, because I had the same incident with Alan last year. Lovell Street, he told me, first things I start with him, I told him, you're gonna clean this ice on the road because it's very dangerous. I don't care about myself. Some other people driving by, it's gonna be very dangerous for them. Then what he told me, avoid driving, because I take my kids to Uxbridge, to Lady of the Valley. So he told me, avoid driving that road, go all the way to the police station and drive around back to Uxbridge. What a best answer than that you can imagine to hear. If I'm gonna avoid it, why do you don't block the road completely? After several times, I had some lady from the town, I don't remember her name, she told me, call him again, and if he didn't take care of the issue, call me back, and we'll make sure that situation gets straight out. Finally, he took care of it last year. And this year, same thing, on Park Street, running off Lovell Street all the way down to Uxbridge. I believe it's a 79. They're running water, in-ground water, coming to the surface, and the road barely 10 feet wide to fit 2 vehicles, ice everywhere over there. So if anybody driving down that road, stop on the brakes, you're gonna say goodbye. Thanks God right now it's melting a little bit. No one even took care of it. You guys, you can go look at it. Even look at the Blackstone Street, how many holes in it.
Are you talking about Lovell Street right now?
Yes, because that road, I drive on it all the way to Uxbridge. Which means somebody has to investigate.
He's talking about Park Street
Yes.
at this point, which goes into Oxford.
This is a situation I'm bringing in front of the board.
So look, I mean, I think, number one, almost no matter how fast you rush to treat and deal with the roads, there's always going to be some amount of lag time between the time a dangerous condition occurs and the time the roads are treated, right? So the question really becomes as to whether or not Mendon is doing what is usual and customary and is done in every other town, and is what we would expect him to do. Now, it's my opinion that we do. I don't quite share your pessimism with what we do, but I think I'd like to hear from the highway surveyor as to what his opinion of the work on that day and the situation.
Okay, on the snowstorm on Sunday night, which that's when it started, we get called by the police department whenever there's a road hazard. That's who we respond to, is the police department. So they call us at 7 p.m.
On Sunday night?
On Sunday night, okay? So then at 7 p.m., it takes approximately, depending on the weather conditions and whatnot, 4 hours to sand the town. So we did that, and we hung around. We went out again at 12 o'clock with the trucks. We watched the Doppler, and it appeared to be like clearing up, but now it's had 2 rounds of material put on them, and they were good. The roads were they were decent. I mean, they're not black, bare tar, but they were decent. We called dispatch, let them know that we're going home. We went home at about, I think, 3 o'clock.
3 a.m.
3 a.m. And then the gentleman here got in the accident at 5, and then the police department called us back at 5:30. So there's only 6 trucks, and what I did is I brought our sanding list here. And we have priority 1 streets. Blackstone Street is one of them. Again, we only have 6 sanders. Our priority 1 streets are Morrison Drive, because the fire department's there. Cemetery in Swandale, because that's a huge cut through, Hartford Avenue East, Bellingham Street, Bates Street, Hartford Avenue West, Neck Hill Road, George, North Ave, Hopedale, Northbridge, Washington, Providence, Blackstone, Maple, Millville, Hartford Avenue, west, the end section towards Uxbridge, Maine, and Providence. Them are our #1 streets. Them are the runs we try to hit first. We do hit first. Then we do all the other streets after that. We have the trucks calibrated to put the proper amount of recommended salt out, which we feel works. And that's what we do.
Now, Alan, do you happen to know how what we did that night compares to what Hopedale did that night, and Upton did that night, and Uxbridge did that night?
I did not call and ask them. Nobody plowed. I do know that. Uxbridge didn't plow. Well, I know Uxbridge didn't plow. I know that for a fact. As far as Milford and Hopedale or Blackstone, I did not call every town.
Town of Upton were plowing 4 o'clock in the morning, same thing in Hopkinton.
Yeah.
Uxbridge, I'm not sure because I didn't call, but down in Upton, they were plowing and sanding. And I have a picture on the road of Blackstone Street, how much deep snow was on it. I have a picture on my phone.
Yeah.
Plus the neighborhood, when he comes up on the 97 Blackstone Street, he told me he saw a lot of cars skidding right to his driveway on that corner, where I already went through the ditch, hitting the tree. And my truck, it didn't skid on the corner, it skid before the corner, almost 50 feet before the corner. It was completely black ice. That's what it took me, straight shot, all the way right down to the woods.
Okay, so let me, I just want to be sure I completely understand what you're telling us. And I'm just trying to understand, so I'm just trying to repeat back to you. So if I understand what you're saying, you're not really necessarily blaming the town of Mendon for this specific accident because you did indeed know what the conditions on the road were. You're upset that the conditions were what they were on the road.
I'm blaming everything who's responsible for the roads. Because, be honest with you, I drive through blizzard. I've been here 20 years in the state. I drive through blizzards. I drive in worse condition. I never had any issues. And I'm very careful, barely leaving my house. I'm not even driving 20 to 25 miles, especially on that road, because I know it very well how road is dangerous. And my truck, before hitting the corner almost 40, 50 feet, I try even to slow down than 20, 25 miles per hour. What I'm going. The truck wouldn't even, I just heard like a skiing ice going straight from 40, 50 all the way down, hitting right to the woods. I'm blaming, of course, the road. I'm blaming who's responsible for the road. It's ice, it's a black ice. If you check my license, I've been driving since 16 years old. I never had a ticket in my life or accident in my life. And since I came to this town, I always found out there's a black ice everywhere. Which means the things is what give me impression. I own business in every single town, Uxbridge, Hopkinton, Upton, Franklin. I'm always driving around East Town, 6, 7 trips a day I go to every town. I never had it before. We never see issues, conditions like this. You see a drill and blizzard, I know that. It's not enough to keep up with these things, but at least we're warning to stay inside. But in the morning when the storm stopped at 11, 12 o'clock midnight, there's a plenty of time for the sanding truck to take care of the situation. Plus, it was required to be plowed. I have a picture on my phone. It was showing 4 inches of snow.
On the middle of the road?
On the middle of the road. I have it on my phone. You'd like to see it? I have it on my phone.
That's interesting. Now, it just so happens that the next person to go by after your accident is a friend of mine that lives on Blackstone Street as well. And he has a different assessment of what the situation on that road is.
I have it on my phone.
Yeah.
If you'd like to see it, more than happy to show it to you.
Yeah. So what I'd like to see, Alan, is I'd like to see what the other towns did on their Priority 1 roads. I presume that that they have Priority 1 roads just like we do, right? Is that they do it that way?
I would imagine, I don't know. We have a Priority 1 because we have so much traffic in town on the main roads that I make sure that they do them first. What the rest of the towns do, I do not know. I know that Uxbridge didn't plow. I know that Upton tends to get a little more snow than us towards Hopkinton up in that way. They tend to get more snow. I mean, it can be snowing up at the end of North Avenue, and it can be raining down Bellingham Street. I mean, it's that much difference between there and down there.
See, my question, how many accidents we had that morning?
I have no idea. Chief?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
I believe there's 3 or 4 accidents at least, because another big truck on Route 16.
See, I can't, I just, my issue there, I just can't help but feeling, I mean, that's just the way, what we have to deal with the snow.
I
you know
saw
what
the
I mean?
truck they were pulling, because the tow driver told me, I heard it.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
How many accidents they had this morning. They had a big truck, Route 16 from Imperial Chevy going to Hart Ave, barely over it, even he skid on ice, all the way going down there. I seen it, he was towing it.
Snow plowing is an exercise in risk mitigation, not risk elimination. You just can't. You live in New England, you take the risk of the
I'm
snow.
100% positive with you, I agree with you.
So the question then
These roads,
becomes.
they're terrible.
Okay, so
Especially Brack
that's
Street,
really the
that's
question.
terrible.
So that's
That's what
really the
I'm
question.
saying.
So do you guys, I mean, the only way to get to an answer here, right, is to see, compare what we're doing with what the neighboring towns do, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, a lot of it's anecdotal in a way. I mean,
Exactly,
until we
that's
have
what.
the
yeah,
facts
Correct.
in front of
Actually,
us.
let me ask a question. Sorry. Obviously, pretty bad accident. What was public safety's assessment of the roads at that point in time? Is that a fair question?
Do you know, Chief, by any chance?
Well, I wasn't aware that this conversation was going to happen here tonight, so I can't.
Yeah, so it is a little unfair. We did not.
No,
we did
okay.
not mention
I
that.
was just asking the question to see if somebody knew.
Yeah, but what I can tell you is that, you know, roads are sometimes bad, and you have to drive accordingly. Chapter 90, Section 17 specifically states you must drive at a speed that is not greater than reasonable for the existing conditions. I can tell you that in the morning, commuting traffic, we have 15, 20, 30,000 cars go through the town. If we have 3 or 4 or 5 accidents, I don't consider that an indication of bad plowing. You have to drive accordingly. And so someone gets in an accident and another 100 people drive by that spot. Well, what's the difference? The difference is that they drove perhaps more appropriately for the existing conditions. There is no doubt that sometimes our roads are a disaster. 6 Sanders, 6 plows, whatever Alan has, they go nonstop. In fact, I'm often calling him in the middle of a snowstorm, you know, where the hell are you? Because they're extended as far as they can be. You live in New England, these are winding rural roads that have very poor irrigation systems to remove the water. The town doesn't have the money to fix that. These roads, a lot of them are cart paths that were
What's
not
paths, yeah.
designed to hold the traffic that they hold. And unfortunately, you have to drive accordingly, understanding that.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief. So I'd like to suggest that if it would be just be a couple phone calls, right, to kind of put the comparison together, right? So I'd like to do that if that makes sense to you, because I'd like to see have a baseline. And then relative to your question about where does the money go? So I think I would probably be generally considered the current foremost expert on where the town spends its money, and I would be happy to spend as much time as you would need, and I'd be happy to explain the entire Mendon budget to you and where all the money goes. You better be prepared for a good 4-hour discussion, but I'd be happy to do that anytime you would like to do it.
You know, my important thing is to be safe driving on the road. For me to drive my motorcycle in the summertime, I don't know who lives on Black Street, if anybody live here or not.
I do. I live on 135.
Okay, you're gonna tell me that road is safe to ride your bike on it? I have to tow my bike in the trailer from here to Uxbridge to Upton and unload it from there and drive my bike. Why?
Yeah, there's a lot of potholes in that.
Why? Why I have to do it? When I'm paying $15,000 taxes, why I have to do it? To
So
tow
I'm
my
hap-
bike to some other town to drive my motorcycle and put it back in the trailer, bring it back home.
So like I say, that's not a soundbite answer, and I'm happy to take you through all the detail that would help you understand that anytime you would like.
This is my point. Is that what I'm talking? At least we need a safe road just to be able to drive on. I'm not looking for more than that. It could be myself, I got hurt this time, could be sometime next time, could be your daughter, could be somebody else. This is my point concern about it. I'm not accusing for plowing or anything, but these roads, at least the cops, they should look at it by driving all night too. So they can see how dangerous it is.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll look
We
at
have some bad roads.
Yeah.
I just sent you guys the survey that we just did on all the streets. It's got the recommendations, you know,
Oh,
suggested.
it's worth mentioning that too, yes, we
You
probably
know,
should
we
mention
just,
that, so.
You know, we,
Millions of dollars to
Yeah.
fix these roads.
So,
This
yeah,
is-
but the
Can I
point
make
is,
it just a real
Yeah.
quick synopsis of this? Roads go on a curve. The curve, it goes straight in the condition. So it goes straight for the first 5 years, then the curve starts to drop.
Right.
Okay?
they get bad quick, that's what
They
you're
get
saying.
bad quick. So the amount of roads that we have in this town, not counting any new ones that we're getting, right now, we get about $273,000 from the state to fix our roads, and about $50,000 to $70,000 from the town to fix the roads. If we continue to get only that amount of money to fix these roads, our roads are gonna be deplorable within 10 years. If we continue to get the same 273 from the state, and the town kicks in about 360,000 a year, that will maintain them the condition that they are right now, at that curve that they're at right now. In order for that curve to start coming back up again, we're gonna need about 900,000 from the town, plus the 273 or whatever it is that the state gives us to bring that curve back up again, which I have the whole pavement survey done. I'm going in to meet with the engineer that did the work for us. I'm gonna meet with the Board of Selectmen, and we need to come up with some kind of ideas. Blackstone Street is not the only road that is terrible. Asylum Street, which I live on, is horrible. Absolutely horrible. The worst part is to my house. I mean, the chief lives on that same road. We have, I'm not gonna deny it. The roads are terrible. But I can only do so much with
Okay,
what I
but
have.
by the same token, Alan, I think we should also say it's not all gloom and doom, right?
No.
So the approach that we've taken is we realize we've got 60 miles of treatable, of road that we need to maintain in town. That's not Route 16, because the state takes care of that, right?
Or 140.
Or 140, right? We had 60 miles. So what we want to be on is a 5-year rotation treating 12 miles of road every year. In order to do that, we need to know how much that's going to cost us. Alan is working with an engineer to determine what that rotation looks like and how much that costs us to do. So that's initiative number 1 that we're already in the middle of. Number 2 is we're in the middle of this initiative with Complete Streets. I'm not a big expert on this, but it will allow us to repair some other pieces of street in the town, particularly in downtown here, particularly in preparation for our 350th anniversary in a year. Okay, so there's a number of things relating to grants and preparations and planning that we're doing, putting focus on these streets. So is it going to happen tomorrow? No, but the focus is there. We understand the issue with the roads.
Let's hope for the best, and I wish if I have any answer on all the question I did ask, so let me know in the future.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough. We should ask the question, we'll get the answer, and then we'll get back to you.
Appreciate that.
Do we have your information so we can get in touch with you?
I can leave it with anyone.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
And I'll send over the actions for that storm.
But
I'll send over the information for whatever actions we
I
have.
appreciate that.
for that period of
I
time.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Feel better, sir.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
See you all set?
I think so.
I am, yeah. Chris, you good? Okay. Discuss FY17 budget.
Need a microphone back.
You got one.
Oh, thanks. Now you're here to.
Yeah, one right.
You have a good night.
Oh, sorry. I need 2, so I can drop one. Okay. As you know, we are FinCom has been meeting on a regular basis to sort of review the budget, and we've been meeting with some of the departments. I wanted to give you an update on where we are with the budget. It's very early in the process. I also wanted to give you a copy of the list of requests from the departments, which the selectmen will have to prioritize to fund if possible, if any. I have sent it to you electronically, so you'll be able to sort of analyze and see if there's funding available, which things you would like to hear more about. I have copies of both of those things here. I don't want to get into detail about it tonight. We will discuss this in detail as we get closer.
Is that already in the packet?
No. Because we had FinCom last night, so making sure we have the,
Can I take a photo?
yeah. We'll discuss this much further in detail once we get closer to the actual dates, but just to keep you apprised of what and where we are with the budget. That's it, and the request list. And that's all.
Are there any concerns up front that you see?
Not initially. It's very early in the process. We still have a number of, the cherry sheet is still not available yet. We don't have solid numbers on the schools yet. I mean, it's still very early. But we are certainly very pleased with the pace at the FinCom meetings that we have been going through. We've seen a lot of the departments. So we feel like we are ahead of the game so far this year.
What's the current under over?
114.
Oh, there it is, yeah, I got it.
All right, so this is just to get us started and looking over some of this material. And we'll start.
We haven't seen a cherry sheet yet, have we?
No,
No, it's just so that, no.
Oh, sorry, I missed it.
that's okay.
All right.
Yeah.
That's all.
And these are the asks, right?
Correct.
Town Administrator report.
Just briefly, I wanted to remind you that we have, I don't know if any of you are decided to attend, but we have the MMA conference this week, starts tomorrow. So I will be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, so.
Very good.
Julie, I wish I could be there.
You should go.
I'm too busy with schedule, unfortunately. Next year.
All right, that's all we have on the agenda for our open session. Yes?
You're scheduled to go into executive session with me to discuss the complaint. I would like to request that we have that in the open communication.
Okay. That's fine. So why don't you come up? And Town Council?
I would like to first state, too, that I've asked for the specifics of this complaint, and I've not been provided with such. You did acknowledge my email and stated that it was a complaint from an employee, and due to the nature of it, we would discuss it tonight. So
Sure.
I don't feel that's a fair approach to bring me into a meeting without knowing what I'm coming in for.
Okay, well, I think part of it is that we're going to talk about what was reported to us, and you know, we're looking to find out what happened. So,
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
point of order.
Mm-hmm.
Is it of the opinion of the entire board that we do this in open session or executive session?
I believe it's the employees' determination as to whether or not they want to do it in those
Okay.
sessions. So.
Okay, I wasn't aware of the law, so that's why I was asking. Thank you.
But just so I'm on the record, I'm more than happy for this to be an open session.
Okay.
All right. Mike, you want to start?
All right, Board, I sent you a letter dated January 12th, 2016. On that day, January 12th, 2016, I received a telephone call from the town administrator, Kimberly Newman. Ms. Newman was upset during that phone call and reported to me the following, that she had information from several employees that Mr. Zarella had come to town hall had requested a copy of her recent employment contract, or her amendment to the employment contract. It's my understanding that that was provided to him, and then following the receipt of that, Mr. Zarella may have gone to various town buildings. Which ones, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe they were Town Hall, perhaps fire, not fire, perhaps the police department and the DPW. Ms. Newman was upset because of the substance of what had been reported to her, that Mr. Zarella may have been making comments such to the effect that she was having a sexual affair with the chairman of the Board of Selectmen and was upset about this. She asked me what she should do about this, and given my concerns about hearing this, the potential that may be there for a sexual harassment claim, a hostile work environment would be the issue here in Massachusetts, and the obligation of the town to look into this, I decided to write my letter to the board, which is dated January 12th, 2016, and outlines that. Again, at this time, these are just allegations. I know nothing more than what was reported to me from Ms. Newman. Given my concern and that this involved the town administrator and that the allegations also involved the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and perhaps that the contract may have been given for these reasons, I decided it was best to notify you and let you know that I thought an executive session would be appropriate to discuss what the next course of action is. Under the open meeting law, Mr. Zarella has the right to be here. A notice was sent to him on the board dated January 13, 2016, informing him of the complaint. I can address Mr. Zarella's concern about the request for information that came in. Apparently that was sent to the board. That email that was sent asking for information was shared with me. Given that it was a Friday afternoon, and given the nature of the particular complaint, and again, just right now where these are just allegations, I don't know any names of any particular individuals that may have spoke, only that these individuals are across multiple departments. And I should add that these comments may have been made during work time when Mr. Zarella was scheduled to be working. So I looked at the law. Mr. Zarella was given all the notice that he was required to today. The purpose I would suggest of this is to, ask Mr. Zarella what his thoughts are on this. Is there any truth to this? And depending on what we learn, discuss a course of action. So.
All right.
And given, just one final thing, given my concern for the type of action that this may involve, where it may involve speaking to a number of people, again, even though I don't know the names of any individuals in such complaints, at this point in juncture, to protect any particular person who might want to say what happened, that's why names wouldn't have been appropriate to give at this juncture. So that is the letter that I shared with you. Mr. Zarella's been here. I guess I will turn it up to the board for their thoughts.
Do you want to speak to that?
For clarification, I'm brought in on hearsay. I'm being brought into an executive session with the Board of Selectmen on hearsay.
It's a serious allegation, and we have the responsibility to investigate it, and that's why you're here, to answer to it and to explain what may have happened, and so we have a good idea of, it's not just hearsay, it's a serious legal issue.
Well, let's give a little bit of back history here. There is a rumor going around that involves a particular relationship between Ms. Newman and a member of the board. I did not start that rumor, nor am I spreading that rumor. As a little bit of back history here, as you all know, I'm the union president for the Mendon Fire Department, and we've been engaged in quite contentious negotiations with the town. Everyone has been offered minimal raises, and if I'm allowed to say it here, I'll state the amount that you've offered us. If it's not, then I won't. Ms. Newman had a meeting on the 7th with the board and was given a 34% raise. Now, I came to town hall to get my ducks in a row and ask if in fact she got said raise, and I was given a copy of the contract, which she did. Now, exercising my rights as the union representative and my right to speech, as well as my right to gather information, I am allowed to ask if anyone has heard, if anyone is involved in a relationship, because that would be an ethics violation, which would be illegal, which would then be subject to the Whistleblowing Act. So furthermore, you're now bringing me into this board meeting. Chief Horn doesn't even know why I'm here tonight. I called him multiple times to ask him what this complaint is about, and he doesn't even know. So I've asked for information about this prior to tonight, nothing. I've asked Chief Horn about it, nothing. Chief Horn is my boss. I answer to Chief Horn. I'm appointed by Chief Horn. I am governed by the policies and procedures of the Mendon Fire Department. He is the person I answer to. He is the one who disciplines me.
Well, the Board of Selectmen does have authority to, conduct a hearing to, fire or address any issues at any time.
Mr. Chairman, this is an unfortunate thing that we're here tonight. This is not the way this should have been handled. I should have been notified about this, and I should have handled it. There is a procedure in public safety how we handle these things and investigate them. Unfortunately, also, in chapter 48, 42, I am the appointing authority. I am the only one that can discipline. And I want to be clear, if he said the things that he's accused of saying, I'm disappointed, and it will be addressed. However, this never should have been here. This should have been given to me to investigate as the appointing authority of the fire department. I have absolute authority over the personnel. No one else does. And honestly, I should have received a phone call, and I did receive a phone call from you respectfully, giving me a heads up. But what should have happened is I should have been called and said, listen, this is what's being said. Would you look into and get back to us? That's what should have happened. That's actually what our sexual harassment policy requires.
Okay.
And then, if we determine that he did some of the things that he's accused of, then it would be my responsibility to hand out discipline. Obviously, if you don't like the way I do my job, you have that authority to deal with me. But he answers to me. But more importantly, every time there's a problem with someone in public safety, I can't have them end up here. Who's running the police department? Who's running the fire department?
Oh, okay, so I have to interrupt here for a second, because now, even if we grant what 100% truth of what you just said, we pay town council to tell us what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So, Attorney Maccaro, I'd like you to address what the chief has just said, because we've done exactly what you've advised us to do.
Sure. I don't disagree with Chief Horn's acknowledgement that he has the right to discipline any of the employees in his employment. And again, that's not the purpose.
Exclusive.
Yeah.
I am the only one. And I'm not having an argument with town council. He's a very well-versed attorney. I have a great deal of respect for him. I have a great deal of respect for everyone sitting in this room. But I just, and please, council, if you disagree with me, feel free to. I just think this could have been handled a lot differently. And honestly, some of the foolishness of this rumor wouldn't be continued on at a public meeting like this. It just didn't need to happen.
Well, it's being continued on at a public meeting because Mr. Zarella requested it.
You shouldn't be here.
Not according to Mr. Maccaro.
Again, let me kind of go back to Chief Horn. I agree, Chief Horn, you have the right to discipline the employees in his department. Again, I was faced with a situation where the town administrator contacted me about serious concerns that she had, and she was upset. These concerns also involved the board, which is why I made the determination to let the board know what was going on. We have every right to be here under the open meeting law and have followed every procedure in terms of that, giving Mr. Zarella the notice. This is not a hearing to determine any discipline. That would not be the course of this. That would not be your role. Our role was simply to find out there were some allegations that were made Again, given the fact that they did involve the board, I invited you to address this and invite Mr. Zarella here. Now, where the board goes from here, that is up to the board. It appears to me that Mr. Zarella has denied that he has spread these rumors.
I feel like I'm here on retaliation.
Absolutely
I
not.
came in on Monday
Absolutely
and
not.
asked for a contract, and then now I'm here for this?
Absolutely
You had a
not.
meeting on Thursday at 4:30, the 7th at 4:30 in the afternoon. I came in and raised a concern to Ms. Newman that this meeting that was held here had no audio until you were done discussing her contract.
Well, you can review the minutes because we specifically.
So that's.
So I bring that concern in on Monday.
Let me.
I bring that concern,
Mr. Zarella, hold on.
I'm not
Excuse
judged.
me. Let the selectmen speak.
Let me finish.
You will be removed if you do not
I can't finish speaking.
you will have your
I was
opportunity.
mid-sentence,
You will, and he asked to speak. The
so he
Board
can
of
interrupt
Selectmen-
me. He can interrupt me, just for clarification on how this meeting goes.
He asked to clarify your concern.
I wasn't finished with my sentence.
He will speak. Go ahead, Rich.
Okay, so, do we have Mr. Skinner here tonight, not, okay. So, it's very interesting you say that, because, I'm sorry, Nancy, it's Nancy, right? Nancy was late that night. She came in late, and it was about 15 minutes past the beginning of the meeting. So over she goes, and she connects it up. Now, we were almost done with the meeting at that point.
Right.
And I wanted to say, geez, maybe we should tell her not to bother. No, we should let her do that and pick it up wherever it leaves off. And then afterward, we went up, Diane and I went up, we talked to Nancy, said, Nancy, we're going to put in the minutes that you were late tonight. And we're not going to do it because we want to embarrass you, but just because of the coincidental nature, what that looks like, somebody's going to make something of that. And it's just typical in this town. It's just unbelievable. The motives that people try to impugn to this Board of Selectmen, myself even, I quite frankly, I've had enough of it. There has been no attempt to retaliate against anything to anybody for any reason. You had every right to ask for the contract. You got the contract, and you looked at it. We renegotiated with Miss Newman because Miss Newman was going to leave with a way better offer than she even got, than we even gave her. So you get a choice. Do you just say, okay, you know what? Let's let her go, and then spend all the money you're going to have to spend to find somebody else, go through the search all over again, go through all the onboarding pains that it costs to put somebody on as town administrator? Or do you make a deal with the person you got that's doing a reasonably good job? No, a damn good job. Well, we took the second course. And that's it.
Can we clarify first, because we're not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss the multiple accounts from 3 different departments of behavior,
Thank you.
unprofessional behavior that was conducted on the Monday that he's referencing, which has nothing to do with contract negotiations with fire. This has to
Absolutely.
do with one employee's unprofessional, alleged conduct throughout multiple buildings in the town. That's what this is about. It's not about what I'm getting paid or what he's not getting paid. This is about his choice of actions on that particular day and the things he may or may not have said. You are here to be able to answer to those concerns that were brought to me. That's what you are here for. You are not here to be disciplined, which is why we've invited Chief Horn. We want him to be here. He is your supervisor. He is invited here. He's an invited guest just like you to hear all of this. Because as an employee of the town, you have rights. And so we are here collectively as a board to hear the facts. And I'm pretty sure I heard you say that you didn't spread the rumor, but you were talking about the rumor. This is exactly what we are talking about here.
If I ask somebody, and I will specifically say that I was in town hall after I met with you, and I had asked 2 other people here, have you heard who Kim may be dating? And they said, no. Who? And I said, I'm not saying, I'm asking. And that's the end of it. So spreading a rumor would be going around and saying what your attorney said that I said, which I did not say. So now you bring me here to answer questions. You're asking me about hearsay. Tell me who I supposedly said what to, have that person.
And we would love to do that, and we would love to have an investigation to find out and show you exactly who said what and when, because quite frankly, your story doesn't hold with what we've heard here, which is why we brought you in to hear your side.
What doesn't hold?
excuse me, if I...
This is not about a conversation at Town Hall that morning. This is about multiple locations in that morning, multiple. Do you understand?
Excuse me, I guess I look at it this way, Mr. Zarella, is that obviously the board has a responsibility, as you know, and you're a senior manager. I look upon you as a senior manager in our community. An accusation was brought up. There was a significant concern. It was brought up to town council. Town council advised this board. This board took our town council's recommendation or advisement. We agreed with what he was recommending, and that's why I asked the question that I asked at the beginning of the meeting. I would have preferred to have done this in executive session. We took the advice of our town council, all right? That's the responsibility of this board. We're not saying that you did this. We're just saying that there were accusations made. We wanted to come in and discuss them with you. That's what we were trying to do in a private setting due to the severity of the accusations and due to the sensitivity of it. You preferred to do this in open meeting. Excuse me, let me finish. That's why we were at where we are now. That's all it was. We as a board now could ask for an independent investigation. There's a lot of things that we can do. We were just trying to address the accusations that were brought forth to us. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just responding to the accusations. That's all. I wanted to make sure we're clear on that.
Yeah, and just so we're clear too, Mr. Israel, I'm not saying that you did anything. I'm telling you what was reported to me and what I had an obligation to report to the board.
Are we in middle school? How do you bring me here without having somebody said I said something? I mean, did I pass a note with study hall?
Excuse me, I'm the town administrator. I'm pretty sure if I have a serious concern, I'm allowed to bring it to my employer, which is the Board of Selectmen, and that's what I've done. I have those rights as an employee just as you do. And certainly the nature of the comments that allegedly were said certainly would warrant this meeting tonight.
Can we again address what comments were made?
I think we did.
No, we didn't.
Well, we have our allegations on both sides.
Yeah.
Right.
But more importantly, I don't want to have to keep repeating this, but this should have been brought to me.
Well, I think this is,
Appointing authority.
sure, and I think that that's what this meeting was going to be about, so that we could have a sit-down.
Should have been a phone call to me.
Okay,
This
well,
never
we
should happen.
with what we got, considering it involves a board member too, I think that sitting down and having a discussion with you and all of us together was how we were going to move forward with it, instead of just a phone call.
Well, what you did is you called them in for a hearing in front of a board that
No.
doesn't have the jurisdiction over.
This was not a hearing.
No.
That's most
Yeah,
certainly what it is.
this is not a hearing. No findings are being made. Again, this was set to be an executive session, again, under Purpose 1 of the open meeting law, because a complaint came forward. The complaint originated from the town administrator. That's under executive session number 1, Purpose 1. A complaint was brought forward. So that's why we're here. Now, again, if Mr. Zarella, depending on what happened, will depend on the course of what happens here. What I would say is we have an individual that has heard some things and was quite upset by that. And those comments that were reported to her legally could rise to sexual harassment. I'm not making any determinations about that. We have another individual here who has denied making these comments, at least in part. What I would think in a situation like this, what I would do is recommend that an investigation be done, particularly where it has involved multiple employees in multiple departments. Investigator could come in, would meet with Ms. Newman, gather the information that she learned, and then go speak with people that allegedly made comments there. Mr. Zarella would have the opportunity to speak to the investigator as well. At that point, usually what happens in situations that involve fire departments, police departments, an investigator makes findings and those are reported. Those would have to be provided to the chief, and the chief would actually have to be the one to decide what, if any, discipline, if anything, occurred. That would be the progression on something like this.
Yeah, I have to say, Chief, I understand what you're saying, but there's absolutely no way that could have occurred. And the reason why, there's no way we could have brought it to you prior to sitting down and having a meeting. We're not allowed to talk.
No, you didn't need to. Town administration immediately called me and said, I need to see.
Town administrator is the subject of the issue.
She is the alleged victim. She needs to reach out to me. I am the appointing authority, not the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, okay, so I think
The law is very clear.
I think the law is clear that I was allowed to contact town council, which is
sure.
what I did. I do not need to speak with you before I speak with town council. That
Correct.
is not what needs to occur.
But what does need to occur, Ms. Newman, is you have to communicate with me.
yes, this was the vehicle for doing that,
You
Chief.
Correct.
have to call me. You have to tell me that you have a problem with one of my employees. And then if you don't like the way I address it, you bring it before my appointing authority.
But Chief, that's exactly what we're doing here. And now we're doing it in public because it was
No,
requested.
you brought him in for a hearing.
No, it's not a hearing.
No, we did
I
not.
couldn't disagree more. He had the right to be heard, and then you had the right to make a decision if any discipline would take place. This is a hearing under the statute.
I would,
Whether-
Attorney Maccaro, is that true or not true?
Well, hold on, if I might finish. Whether you bring witnesses in and take statements and put them under oath, which you as the board can have the town clerk do, sure. Is it that extensive? No. This should not have happened. This should have been investigated according to our policy on sexual harassment.
Okay, so are you suggesting, Chief, I'm not trying to be a pain in the neck here, but are you suggesting that when we as a board sit down and we discuss with a town council, who we pay good money to, and they advise us to do something, we say, well, you know what, we're not really sure if you're really right on that. Let's check with the chief first.
No, absolutely not. I'm not
Okay,
saying-
so we did exactly what town
Right.
council told us to
Right.
do, so therefore, whether you're right or not, and maybe you are right,
I think-
we did exactly what we were advised to do, okay?
I'm not faulting anyone at this point. All I'm saying is that this didn't have to get to this point.
Oh, I think it did, oh, I think it did. No, I think it did.
Most certainly,
No, I think,
most
no,
certainly did.
I
But
disagree.
not only that, I think town council, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think he said I'm correct. I am the only one that can handle this.
No, he said you're the only one who can issue
Discipline.
discipline, which is
Correct.
why
Correct.
We're
you
not
have been
there.
invited here as a courtesy, as
doesn't
part of
have
an
to even answer the
informational
question.
session.
Right,
But I've instructed him to be here. He doesn't even have to be here.
Correct.
that's right.
It's both as a courtesy based upon
That's-
serious concerns that I have about an employee's alleged complaints about me, which I brought to town council. There is nothing nefarious about what is happening here. In a normal organization,
That's right.
and there'd be HR protocols in place, and there'd be protection for the employees involved. In this case, I happen to be the HR person and the employee involved. I have no obligation to notify you about my concerns about someone that is working for you directly, particularly if my concerns are as severe as they are, so that's why I went to town council. I did not even go to my board first, I went to council.
So
let me
just say one thing to that. You violate our town sexual harassment policy. You're required to investigate it.
You're
Not
assuming
bring it
that
to a
I'm,
hearing in front of the board.
you're assuming that the only allegation here is sexual in nature. I have multiple concerns
Until
about things
tonight,
that were
I didn't know what
said.
any of the allegations
What are the
Just
allegations?
excuse me for 1 second. To Selectman Schofield's point, we as a board aren't able to communicate and discuss the severity of this, and it deals with one of our...
Which
deals
quite
with
frankly
one-
gets very frustrating sometimes. because
deals
it's
with
very
one of
difficult.
our employees, all right, and deals with some pretty significant accusations. That was the purpose of this meeting, because we don't have the vehicle or the opportunity to talk as a board and really digest what these accusations are. So I think this was a proper vehicle. I hear you, Chief. I understand your position. We were, again, to reiterate, we were advised by our counsel. We took the advice of our counsel. We moved forward in that direction. We took the venue. We now have the opportunity as a board to be able to communicate and deliberate about this. Up until that point, it's hard for us to even discuss. I'm not going to sit here and accuse Mr. Zarella of any accusations until I'm able to look at the accusations and determine. I'm not an investigator, but I am her boss.
Yeah. And I do agree with you, and council.
Thank you.
Council advised you correctly.
Thank you.
can't come in here and talk about him without first inviting.
Thank you.
And
He's absolutely right.
And
on
he
that.
has, and Mrs.
Thank you.
Zarella had the right, again, on the purpose one, because you're going to be discussing a complaint about a particular individual, Mr. Zarella had the right to be notified this and the right to choose to attend or not to attend. He chose. he had the right to have this we put this in executive session, and he had the right to have this in open session. That his right to have this done in open session actually trumps, under the law, the purposes for doing this in executive session. Again, going back, I want to be clear, the chief has all the power to discipline Ms. Cizzarella if anything was to come about this, but I am recommending that this board authorize an investigation be done, just given the nature of the multiple employees in multiple departments. So, that, again, this isn't a hearing, no discipline could have come.
I don't see how we come to any other conclusion.
I just think the purpose of this was to have a discussion with yourself, with Mr. Zarella, and, I mean, Selectman Schofield was out of the country. I mean, it's hard to...
Gone for 11 days.
It's hard to, do things when there's serious allegations that are completely false, and it's quite honestly disturbing that that is even going around. But, it involves a board member. We wanted to have a discussion with you, being the person who's responsible for discipline, should that even be necessary. That's the purpose of what this meeting was about. It was not to issue discipline or any of those types of things that
That conversation should have happened with me.
I don't agree with you, Chief. I'm sorry. You can't, how in the heck can we have a discussion with you until we've had a conversation? We can't do it. You do need to.
Administrator talks to town council. Town council should have told her, you gotta talk to the appointed.
The town administrator works at our behest.
Right, but
She only does a subset of what we are responsible for. Something serious like this, there's no way I'd want her going to anybody else until it was discussed with the board. And the board doesn't get to talk outside of a posted meeting. So we wanted to bring people in to discuss it. I don't see why this becomes a reverse inquisition on how the Board of Selectmen handled this. We have to do something. It's not a little thing.
And the reason we originally were meeting last night, but because we felt that it was an important matter that we wanted all members to be, present. Rich was still away, and so we moved the
Moved to
meeting.
24 hours so I could be here.
So listen, I don't think that this board needs to explain any further.
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right,
Yeah.
we took a position. I agree with the position. I would have preferred to have taken this much more sensitively in an executive session. It was Mr. Zarella's choice to do it in open session. This is how we got to where we were. I'm very concerned about the situation. I'm very disappointed about the situation as a board member. I really am. It's unbecoming of a senior manager if this happened. I'm not saying it happened, but if it did, it's very unbecoming of a senior manager in my community.
I never cease to be amazed at the
I'm
drama
so
created
disappointed.
in a
I mean,
6,500
what a time
person
suck.
town. It just is unbelievable to me.
So this is the way that I look at it. Mr. Chairman, what's the direction going forward? I don't think we need to discuss this any further.
I just have one question before you do close. It's been said multiple times that there's multiple accusations. What are the accusations? Because Mr. Real, I just can quote you as saying, the allegations are quite disturbing, they're
The allegations that there was...
completely false.
Should I read, should I?
Yes.
Yes,
Why don't I, Mrs. Rowell, why
Thank
don't I
you.
read the letter
I was
that I
gonna-
sent to the board?
thank you.
Dear board members, on Tuesday, January 12th, 2016, I spoke to Town Administrator Kimberly Newman, who reported that an employee in the fire department was allegedly making derogatory comments regarding the town administrator and the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and it suggested that they were involved in an inappropriate relationship and that this relationship resulted in Ms. Newman receiving a new employment contract. Ms. Newman reported that this employee made these statements in front of town employees in multiple town buildings during work hours. It is my understanding that this employee may have used crude and derogatory language. Ms. Newman was upset about these allegations. Given that Ms. Newman was the subject of these allegations, Ms. Newman asked for my opinion on what steps, if any, should be taken. I believe it is appropriate to convene an executive session at the earliest convenience to address what steps the board would like to take to address this matter. Please feel free to contact me directly if you have any questions. That is the sum and substance of what was reported to me. I will spare the board some of the terms that Ms. Newman heard. I think that's more appropriate. Again, now that this is in an open session, I think these sort of things, so there's no prejudgment, that's the sort of thing that should be uncovered, if any statements were made at all, by an investigator.
Due to the seriousness of the allegations, I think it's prudent and fair to recommend that we do independent investigation of this subject matter, and because we're hearing multiple sides at this point.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think so. And I say that, you know, these allegations need to be taken very seriously. And so regardless of who said it, I think it's important that we understand this whole situation, because it's just unacceptable behavior, and it's very putting the town at risk by making such allegations. So
At the end of the day, what we know for sure is that someone, at some point, fabricated a story that's not true. So the bottom line is that, in my view, that needs to be investigated.
And that's not the only piece. Dissemination of the information, whether true or not, is completely unacceptable, particularly for an employee of the town.
Well, I would say even more so as a senior manager of our town.
And I'd just like to add, I think that this is incredibly embarrassing for the entire town of Mendon. And I think the way that it's been conducted tonight is completely unnecessary. I think it's another example of how things get taken out of hand and out of context in this community in order to create drama that is unnecessary to sort of perpetuate this myth that this board or this town has some sort of ulterior agenda about the things that we do. We have to be able to function as a professional organization, and when things like this occur, we follow the correct channels in order to get the correct outcome. I'm not saying that Mr. Zarella absolutely said these things. I'm not sure, which is why we are here to find out some information. He says that he didn't. That's fine. I'll be satisfied if the board does an investigation. But right at this moment, I'm incredibly disappointed with what has happened here.
Which I'd like to add too, could have been avoided had I gotten a response to my original request as to what we were here for.
Mr. Rudden.
I have no dog in this hunt. I have no comment on your procedure. However, Mr. Reel, if you're the subject of the complaint, I respectfully request you recuse yourself from all board actions on this complaint. You may be investigated, you may be deposed, you have been named as being personally involved. To keep the appearance of whatever happens above board, I think you need to recuse yourself from any votes on this matter.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I actually agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's 100% fair, because I'm perfectly comfortable in making sure that the investigation, should it be done, is done impartially and the truth is revealed, so that's fine.
Mr. McCara, what are the steps of the investigation, please?
In situations like this, what I would have recommend is to have an independent investigator come in. There are people in my office that do that routinely that I could recommend. Investigator will come in and will speak with individuals. They will usually, I would leave that to the investigator. You know, it would not be myself. Someone would come in and would speak with the person who made the complaint. In this case, it would be the town administrator, and get what the concerns are. It would really be up to the investigator as to who and when they speak with, but they're usually going to want to speak with people that may have information. In a case such as this, it usually involves, if Ms. Newman heard this information from a certain source, they're going to want to talk to that source. Also, Mr. Zarella will get a chance to meet with the investigator, and will be able to answer anything and get his side of the story out there. Ultimately, what an investigator does is exactly that, is they investigate a particular scenario. The investigator then usually makes credibility determinations if there is conflicting information. Sometimes it's simple. Sometimes the whole story is there and it's an easy conclusion. Sometimes it's not, and that's where credibility determinations have to be made. A report is usually made. Investigator has no power, in any case, to ever issue discipline. It's usually just findings and what occurred and when, that sort of thing. I think an independent person in this particular case, just given the nature of the parties involved, where you have a senior employee, the town administrator, a board of selectmen at issue right here, is the person to do that. People can feel comfortable speaking to them. They don't have to worry about fear of retribution or intimidation or harassment. An independent investigator tends to be able to get more truthful information, at least is what I've found in my case. Once that report is done, that would be issued. Again, in this particular situation, we have Chief Warren is a strong chief. So he is the one that would make any, depending on what the result was, he'd have to review that.
Understand.
And see what the actions are from there.
Understand.
So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I certainly agree with town council, it should be somebody from outside. Probably should be someone not from his law firm to avoid any potential conflicts. I'll leave it to him to make that decision, but that might be a good idea. Certainly whoever he wants to pick, I'm comfortable with.
really, I leave that decision to the board. I can tell you that I routinely do this. Again, I would find someone in my firm who has actually never done any work for Mendon, has never met anyone here. They would be independent, but that is really ultimately your decision on who you would like to use. If you decide to use someone outside of my firm, I'd be happy to try to find some names of recommendations of people that I think are pretty good and could do a good job. I've certainly worked with several attorneys that have come from the outside of my firm is what I should say, in the capacity of sort of advising the board and the department heads as investigations go along. Again, it's truly independent, and I've worked with people inside my firm. That is truly up to the board's decision as to what direction you'd like to take.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Based on the public nature of this meeting now, how can we be certain that any potential witnesses in the process who may have watched this meeting or may now not want to be part of this, who fear some sort of retaliation, will actually be giving fair statements?
Well, I think first of all, retaliation is illegal. So no one should have to fear for retaliation for speaking the truth. If they speak the truth, or if they believe that an individual is being intimidated, harassed, or not being allowed, I would hope that they would come forward and speak to either their department head, the town administrator, or anyone in the town that they could trust. I mean, I don't think this town or any municipality should tolerate retaliation. You know, typically what happens in a situation like this, especially where you have someone who is being looked into, there's usually an instruction that says, you know, this is an ongoing investigation. Any intimidation or harassment of witnesses won't be tolerated. You really want to get down to the truth of this right there. So, you know, retaliation is...
What constitutes harassment?
That's such a broad definition. I mean, it really is fact-specific as what could be harassment.
You can understand my concern here, which is that I've had a number of employees that I've spoken with about this, and now we have sort of created this circus that goes around with it. And I'm worried that they may now, quite honestly, I'm worried going forward that employees may feel uncomfortable coming to me with something because of the nature of this, because it's been done in such an inappropriate form.
Well, again, I don't think it's been done, let's just be clear. Mr. Zarella did have the right to choose to have this in public session. So I don't think we should say that this is done in an inappropriate forum. I know the board's preference may have this been done in executive session, but again, as I said, Mr. Zarella has the right to have this in public session, and that right trumps the executive session rights. In terms of witnesses and fears, again, what I can sort of say from experience is one of the things that a savvy investigator can do if they're given the name of an individual that was told has information and they meet with someone and the information they're provided is different, they will sometimes note that in an investigation. They may say, I believe this person wasn't being forthcoming, but there are so many different things that can happen in an investigation, and that's why a good investigator and someone with experience is really, I think, suited for a case like this, particularly given the concerns now that, you know, this is now public.
Chief, I just got a question for you on a process. Sure. All right, so I'm trying to say this respectfully because obviously it's just an investigation. We're trying to figure out both sides, right? So I say this respectfully to Mr. Zarella and also to yourself, Chief. How do you ensure that Mr. Zarella doesn't speak to town employees regarding the allegations that are?
Yeah, I have the same concern about the
Thank
town
you.
administrator as well as him.
Thank
So
you.
What I'm going to do, and I would recommend that whoever's going to stand in for the chairman, I'm going to instruct him that he does not communicate with anyone in writing and he cooperates with the investigation.
Okay.
I would suggest to you, the board, that you instruct the town administrator that she's not to talk to anyone and that she's required to cooperate with the investigation. Because
Correct.
retaliation and intimidation can come both ways.
That's right.
They're both in interestingly fairly powerful positions in the town. So you really want to extract them and Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, sir, if you feel that you need to step aside, that's for you to decide as well. But the lead person in this investigation should be, I guess, one of the other two selectmen and myself. We should be the ones that whoever the investigator is will come to if people aren't cooperating. I have people under my authority, and you have people under your authority, so it's our job to make sure that we're cooperating. And then, of course, for you, if I'm not requiring my people to cooperate, then you, of course, can take action against me.
Sure.
But so he'll be told in writing he is not to engage in any conversation with any potential witnesses, which is, we have a very comprehensive internal affairs policy. He will not talk to anyone. He will answer all questions that he's asked by whoever council appoints to do this. I would ask you to tell the town administrator the same thing, and then we just all let it play out. The report, I assume, will come to both of us, myself and the board, and then it would seem to me that I would want to meet with the board, because it's kind of an interesting dynamic. She works for you, she obviously doesn't work for me. So he works for me, so I have to figure out what's appropriate if he's done anything wrong. But at the same time, I have to try to appease your employee.
Understand.
So I think.
And agreed.
What I would think would be that we would come to a meeting in the minds what we think, and then probably throw it to town council and say, council, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. Chief, I would assume that this also includes social media?
My employees will not be allowed to discuss this in any fashion whatsoever.
Thank you.
Yeah, their employment speech will be appropriately restricted.
Thank you.
So Attorney McCarroll, so that all sounded completely appropriate to me. Do you agree?
I agree with everything the chief just said.
Okay, yeah, I did too. Okay.
Bill?
Yeah, maybe in the future, having dealt with situations like this in the past, I think you should have followed council's advice immediately. This probably shouldn't have taken to the floor. An investigation should have been ran, because you don't know what you're going to uncover within town hall. Who knows how many people are involved? These things usually don't generate from one person. They scatter and they get bigger as they go. And unfortunately, in the future, I think you can avoid a lot of this if you just follow council's recommendation immediately, go into executive session.
Can I respond? Can I respond to that? Actually, Bill, that's exactly what we tried to do.
They can't. It's his call whether it's
It was his call. We did everything.
I mean, they wouldn't even have to call him to begin an investigation on that sexual harassment.
We should have followed our policy.
Right,
Which
should
would
have
have
gone
been
right
first
to investigation.
investigated. And public safety,
I've
I
actually
have a
never
sexual
seen this
harassment
type
policy.
of,
We would have investigated it, and then I would
this
have
shouldn't
sent
have
it to you.
happened. This should have gone
Well,
right
again,
to-
we took the advice of town council.
I think he suggested investigation on, that's why we pay him.
He suggested it, but he can't make the decision. So here
We
we
have to
are.
have a
Here we are.
Meeting to make the.
But thank you for your point, Bill.
But
I
you have to
understand. I understand where
call
you're
him,
going.
and you could have just taken an executive session, made the opinion to run the investigation and go with it.
No, we can't have an executive
No,
session.
excuse me for 1 second, Bill. Let me just follow up on policy. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, or Mike. The way that I understand it is if we were to have an executive session regarding this subject matter, we have to, by law, correct me if I'm wrong, invite Mr. Zarella to that executive session. That's what we attempted to do.
Council, I'm sure we both have the exact same opinion.
Yeah, first of all, if you're going to go into executive session, you have to be able to go in for one of the enumerated purposes, so it has to fall under there. The only thing at this particular juncture that this would have possibly fit under would have been purpose one, to do that. Again, where
And
my...
it's his decision. He decided.
That's right. So we followed all the steps, is all I'm saying, Bill. Okay, I appreciate your point, though.
Just so you understand, the board had no choice. It
Mhm.
had to be held in public. Their hands were tied.
That's right. Thank you.
Had I been given more information, then a different route could have been taken.
Well, I think due to the seriousness of the allegations, we deferred to our town council, Mr. Zerl,
Again,
respectfully.
Mr. Zell, we didn't have a lot, right now it's just allegations. No one's coming forward. The concerns are in anything like this, this is part of the reason the decision was made. When you have a case like this, we've talked a little bit about retaliation. You also are trying to protect witnesses. We weren't set to be here until Tuesday, actually Wednesday now. So the concern was if too much information was given out, honestly, you don't want anyone to start going around saying, hey, they're going to ask me about this, what are you going to say? So you're trying to protect all the witnesses in this case. That's one of the things that you consider.
As well as protect you.
Well,
And potentially me,
Yeah,
right?
well,
Absolutely.
Well, everyone.
Well, you're
Yeah,
included.
Everyone.
Everyone, sorry, Ken.
Remember, what we have are allegations.
Allegations.
I agree, it might have been Selectman Schofield that said, we're not really sure where this started. There's a fair amount of animosity
That's right.
in town government for a lot of different reasons. So there's a lot of potential agendas of how this stuff got going.
That was kind of what I was getting at there.
There's some
Future
people that are
policy.
very unhappy with how things are done and the level of communication and, in all the departments. That's part of life. So we really don't know where this is going.
Sure. Absolutely.
So we don't know who's the victim and who's the perpetrator, so to speak.
Yeah, and again, just to follow up on that, I don't think it would have been my role at that point to tell you in writing to conduct an investigation. Again, that's
Right.
why we would have had to get into executive session.
Correct.
Given the town administrator, the board of selectmen that was involved, that was the decision that was made.
Could we just maybe in the future, when you have an issue with an employee in any department, notify that department head immediately and fill them in on what the allegation is?
I think that's going to be
think
the
we-
end of the situation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Chief, I called you and you said that. And again, part of the reason at the time was that one of the board members wasn't even aware.
I have no issue, you were very
It's-
candid about
And,
that.
and as well as the fact that I wasn't sure as to the direction to go in. We discussed it with our town council. We decided it was best to just,
Yeah.
discuss it
So-
all.
so it sounds like there
in
was
one
an-
And
location.
if I could address, the
I just
chief's
think I should have heard
concern,
from the town administrator.
you know-
I'm not trying to put it on the spot.
I think
Really
that,
not, but I think I
I
should have heard.
am under no obligation to speak to you about this particular type of incident. This involves me, in the claim that's about me. It's not about an employee beyond me, it's about me. So I have
You made a
the,
complaint on an employee that I supervise.
correct, but what I did was contact town council for direction because we don't have another HR person.
And also
His
trying to make her
direction-
bosses aware of it.
Correct,
You
and
know
then
what?
he makes the board
Maybe this will
aware.
be a teachable moment for all of us.
what I
Maybe
would.
we'll find better ways.
So actually, Chief, if you don't mind, I'd like to see the sexual harassment policy. I don't know that I've read it. I'd like to see what
You're
it says.
required to read it once a year.
Yeah.
I doubt that's done here.
I'm sure if I was required to read it, at some stage I read it, but I
But you're
don't
required to
think
read
I
it
can.
and sign it every year, and I don't think
we
you've
sign it
done
every year?
that. That is the state law.
I have a copy
I
of the
do that
MCAD.
with all of my public safety
form right
employees.
here.
Every 6 months, every public safety employee reads it, signs it, and signs a disclosure to me personally. If they're
Oh, when you
victim-
said you meant the employees.
Well, state law is for all of us. You're required to review this annually, at the minimum, and sign off on it.
I'm new to the board, chief, so I'm.
Yeah, well, everyone is.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's true, and we're not doing it, we need to fix it immediately. I want to read that, I want to know what it says, and I want to see if we didn't do something we should have done, fine, and if it needs changing, then we need to discuss that.
I think,
I'm 100% on board with that. We're all gonna learn from this, starting with myself.
I think the chief's right. I mean, we gotta use the teachable moments of these things. I mean, it's not fair to any of these people up here.
I think the employees should also use this as a teachable moment to
Absolutely.
stop with the
But I mean,
ridiculous
it
gossip.
could be something else that doesn't need to be, fanned out in the paper like I'm sure it might be in the next couple days. And that doesn't make the town look good and certainly doesn't make any of the people involved look
It's
good.
unfortunate for everyone.
So I think we need to come up with a protocol when these things happen.
I think we tried to follow that protocol in order to protect the town's interests, and unfortunately, it wasn't followed in the exact way that we had, but it's Mr. Zarella right to have it in this form, and so we're having it.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So, all right, I don't think we need to go any further.
I just have one more quick question, real quick. Can we get our hands on it as we leave? Can we
Sure,
have it?
I've got a copy of the state's complaint.
No, I mean the
Sexual
policy.
We
Fine.
need to review the town's policy.
I want to walk out the
Fine.
door with it.
Doesn't supersede the
Okay,
state's.
okay, so steps moving forward, please.
I gotta be heard on that. She's saying it doesn't supersede the state. That's incorrect. You are required under state law to have a sexual harassment policy. It must comply with the law, all right? You must review it once a year. This is what you're bound to, is the sexual harassment policy of this town. Has
Yeah.
nothing to do with superseding any state policy or complaint form or anything else. That's not correct. You have a sexual harassment policy you must adhere to. It must comply with statutory regulations.
Correct.
And it should be reviewed not only, well, under state law, it must be reviewed once a year by every employee. I would also recommend that our council take a look at it every year to make sure he agrees that we're up to speed. Because case law changes almost day to day on this stuff.
Well, I'll be.
Certain that council doesn't need your advice about what he needs to get updated on.
I'm not getting, excuse me.
All right.
I don't appreciate being
All right.
disrespected, all right? That's part of the communication problem here that needs to be resolved.
Now, that was out of line, Kimberly. Okay, so.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to, anyway, I'm going to review it tonight, is all I'm saying. I just want to
It
copy
will
my
put
comments.
this-
Yeah. Well,
All right, so, again, Mike, what are our steps moving forward?
Again,
How do
I
we-
think,
how do we initiate the
I think at this
investigation?
point, what you should do is take a vote to authorize an independent investigation.
Yep.
Again, as I said, as, in terms of whether you're not, you'd like someone from I can certainly recommend someone from my firm to do it. If you prefer it to be someone outside of my firm, I can try to find names of people that I think are qualified.
Is it uncommon for your firm to, before I make a motion, is it uncommon for your firm to be general counsel for a community and then also have independent investigator from the same firm, to the chief's point that he made?
It can, if I might speak, it can create a problem, because let's say that council comes back and disagrees with the town's position. You know, they gotta be a little bit concerned that they get their contract renewed. These guys are professionals, so it isn't gonna matter, but that could be an argument. The argument on Mr. Zarella says, geez, you know, this is the guy that's getting paid by the town as general counsel, and now he's against me. You know, you gotta be careful with that, but I will tell you, as the guy that's responsible for handling discipline, I respect whoever he picks.
Okay,
There will be no argument from me that it was not impartial.
Okay.
If council is comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with
I
it.
got 3 letters, NFL, Ted Wells,
That's a,
tied to the council. You know, certainly,
I don't understand what.
that's a gentleman that has read up on the numerous volumes of the Tom Brady Deflategate situation. There, the NFL had an internal counsel that also, their investigator was also done from the same law firm. So that was one of the bases that thing was challenged on. Again, you asked, the question was, is it uncommon? No, my firm does that routinely. But as the chief has pointed out, perhaps there could be some perception of, you know, for whatever. Like I said, I've done it in both. The decision is really the board's.
all right.
It's not a decision that I can make.
Selectman Schofield, I would be comfortable with our counsel making a recommendation one way or another, if it's somebody out of his office or within his office, to be honest with you, based off of what I've heard and what the chief said, so.
I'm fine.
Okay, I'm slightly different. I want to, in advance, avoid all remote possibility of any concern.
Perfect.
And say,
I'm fine with that.
have somebody outside of your office, not inside your office. do
That's
it.
perfect, I'm fine with that. So
Eliminate all issue.
So I'd like to make a motion to initiate an independent investigation from the independent, with the stipulation that the independent investigator not be someone from our council's office.
Step down and second.
Just discussion, are you gonna have town council find that person?
I'll have him make recommendations.
I can make recommendations for several attorneys, so, that I know I've worked with in the past. Again, they're outside my office. The only relationship that I may have is I've seen them work before, and I think they're good investigators. So
Okay.
I can get the board a list of that, by the end of the day tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So-
Abstain? Okay. Anything else?
Oh, I just would like to, again, go on record that I think this is retaliation. I came in on Monday, and then the next day this comes to be. So, as a union rep, I have the right to discuss contractual issues with other people. They don't have to be union members. And if I inquired about Ms. Newman receiving a 34% raise in the middle of a contract that was not expired, and asked if anyone else had known of any personal relations that might have had an influence in there, that's protected speech.
This is directed to our counsel. I don't understand the retaliation claim, so is that something that we should discuss here, or how does that work? I just don't understand the retaliation claim.
Again, I think what Mr. Zarella is saying is that he believes that this is because he went in and requested a copy of the town administrator's contract, and that he may have been discussing that contract with other individuals. If that is the case, then I would say he has every right to do that. He has every right to request the contract, give that. He has every right to discuss the finances, whether he is a union member or just a regular town employee. I think, just to be clear here, the concern was not that I heard from Ms. Newman.
Yeah. Who's the accusation of the retaliation against, though? Is it against the board, or is it against
You'd have to ask Mr.
It's going to be against you all, including Ms. Newman.
Well, you're wrong.
I find that really offensive. But
Yeah, and offensive too. And quite frankly, it's a modus operandi that quite frankly, of the way the contracts are always handled by this particular union.
And I find it very unbecoming of a senior manager.
And now, when you're done with this one, your executive sessions to discuss negotiating with the union. Again.
Well, we
I
do
have
have to
nothing
move
else
the
to
business
say.
forward.
I'm sorry?
We do have to move forward.
Which was previously scheduled before this, as were fire negotiations on Monday, which have been scheduled for over a month and a half. So the timing is just
Mr.
coincidental.
Chairman, I recommend you stop this.
I would agree-
said
I would agree
anything
with
else,
that.
and Mrs. Zarella had more, so.
Okay, so let's move on.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Just review. Change this a little bit.
He just has to go into executive session.
We're gonna just do executive. 1 second. No. Okay, I move to enter into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, for
Answer my email
purpose
about getting
to...
together, but now you
I
better.
do.
Oh,
I do,
Kim,
you know
hold on,
what?
we're still
We're-
doing business.
I'm sorry, I need to
Hold on,
take a break
just-
for a
Just
minute.
1 second.
Yeah.
Let me go into executive.
Okay.
I haven't made the motion. 1 second. I move to enter into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, under Purpose 2, to conduct a strategy session with respect to collective bargaining with the Men and Permanent Firefighters Union. Reconvene only to adjourn. Thank you.
Second.
Oh, roll call votes needed.
Burke, aye.
Schofield, aye.
Real aye.